Okay, in this video, I'm going to tell you the retirement tricks that could mean that even if you retired in a period which was as bad as the Great Depression, which was then followed by a long, painful bear market, kind of like the tech bubble, you can put in a structure to make sure you don't run out of money. I'm also going to tell you how this structure can actually be very useful for more normal expectations of market returns and give you a good balance of freedom with spending while also being careful. So I'm going to be reviewing a step-by-step approach on how this would work, even if you were a retiree who was more unlucky than someone who retired at a time worse than the Great Depression. So what is this magic? Well look, I'm about to tell you. But the first thing I need to do is take a step back and explain the problem. Look, retirement is really tricky. We don't know how long you're going to live for. We don't know what inflation will be over retirement. We don't really know if there'll be any spending shocks in retirement, fixing a roof, paying for care. And we certainly don't really know what investment returns are going to be. And all these things are going to have a massive impact on the actual retirement you have. So how can we look forward and consider these things without a crystal ball? Alright, there are two main types of modelling for the future when I or another financial planner looks into this so that we can get a best estimate so our clients can make good decisions now. So to understand this, we have to talk about any assumptions that we make. So first general type of modelling is called deterministic modelling. This is where you take an average investment return or returns in general over the entire life of somebody's cash flow plan. And this is easier to understand on a more basic level because what we do is we input your provisions, pensions, ISAs, income, expenditure, all the rest of it. And it kind of looks like this. The bars kind of go down when you spend down on your provisions, and that gives us a good idea of when the money runs out. And it just makes sense visually. It's easy to take in. The problem with this, though, is that the markets don't move in a straight line as economic cycles ebb and flow. How useful is it really using an average return when we know you're probably not going to get the average? So the other big type of modelling is called stochastic modelling. This is really interesting to use alongside because it gives us more of a probability score. So what it does is it runs like hundreds of thousands of different scenarios and gives us a probabilistic average. So here we've got, imagine a world without tax, a simple balanced portfolio starting with $1 million and drawing down to $40,000 per year, with a failure rate when the portfolio hits 50k. So here you go. As you can see, we've got a range of outcomes. Green is the 75th percentile, basically things going well. And as you can see here, things not going so well. The problem is the orange bit, and if the markets don't perform well, these squiggly lines here, these are really bad year simulations. And in the really bad scenarios, you can see there's a probability somebody runs out at 77, 79, 80, way earlier than you're expected to pass away. Okay, here's the problem. Imagine you're on a plane and they said there's an 81.4% chance your flight will be successful. How useful is that to you? What does it mean? Do they mean that there's an 18.6% chance that you'll be late arriving in New York? Or do they mean you're going to go into the side of a cliff? Okay, as you can see, these probabilities are useful, but are they actually useful for a human being, thinking about their own personal finances and the future of them and their family? So there is a way, a human way, we can manage this. And to show you, I'm going to have to show you a terrible scenario for a retiree. So in this framework, I'm going to be using and building upon Bill Bengen's The 4% Rule. Now, I did a video on this issue with the 4% rule, you can have a watch. But just a whistle-stop tour of the problems with using this as a guide. The 4% rule says you invest in 50% US stocks and 50% US bonds. When we look back over history, you can withdraw 4% of the starting value and then just that each year for inflation for 30 years without running out of money. So very simply, look, if you've got $1 million, you can withdraw $40,000 per year and theoretically you'll never run out. There are some big problems with this though. It's firstly just based on US data and the US market, so that just so happens to be one of the best performing markets in history. Bit of a bias there. It doesn't include any charges, and there's always some form of charging with investing. So it doesn't consider any form of taxation, so if you're using a pension that's tax deferred, you got problems. And it's over a 30-year period where you might actually live longer. All right. So we're just going to assume, why not, that you're a 55-year-old and let's extend it to a 30-year period out to running to like age 100. So we've got $1 million and we're drawing $40,000 per year. I'm going to forget charges, taxes, state pensions. The whole point of this is just an illustration. So what we're going to do is we're going to follow the 4% rule, drawing £1 million from an ISA. So I'm going to use a typical 50-50 portfolio, and the historical data averages I'm going to use are from 1926 to 2019 in the US market. And this has had an average return of 8.29% over that period. So I'm going to assume 2.5% inflation across retirement. We can kind of debate returns and inflation all you like, but as you're about to see, it's going to become pretty irrelevant. So this £1 million portfolio on an average compounded rate of return of 8.29%, and as you can see, life is good. We'll hold on there. So the worst historical year for a 50-50 portfolio was minus 23.49% in 1931. That for a balanced portfolio is a hell of a decline. And the best year, I should add, was shortly afterwards, 36.37, which was 1933, which just goes to show the spring back from the worst can often lead to some of the best years. But yeah, you know that 8.29% average return? I'm going to give that to you across your retirement in a horrific way for a retiree. So I'm going to give you in the first year, minus 22%, no spring back in the second to minus 8, and then the third, wait, minus 15%. That, by the way, is absolutely horrific for a potentially retiree, and it's hugely exaggerated for a balanced portfolio. And the reason why, it's a mixture of incredibly painful drops over a really grim, drawn-out period. The point of me doing this is I'm trying to sink the portfolio in many ways. And then I'm going to give you some good years, 30%, 15%, 14%, 10%, 6%. Remember, coming back from a portfolio that's been decimated has a big difference. So these figures actually aren't that good. Anyway, just when you thought it was safe to go back into the water, China invades Taiwan, minus 10%, minus 24, minus 6. And basically then I'm just going to have it move up and down enough. So over the 100 year, over the retirement up to 100, I should say, you get the 8.29% return. So the later years, we actually get some really good returns. So I've modeled this portfolio which simulates some horrible situation, as deep as the Great Depression, but as long and as painful as a tech bubble. Surely this would sink most people's plans. And yes, you're absolutely right. Let's go back to that 4% rule. Everything's great. I've achieved fire. Oh no, wait, you haven't. Okay, well, here's a secret. And remember, I exaggerated that situation beyond belief, as it illustrates it best what I'm about to show you. The trick is having a framework which allows for adaptive spending, and we can use that so we make sure that we never run out of money. It's not perfect, but it can be used really well and can be incredibly effective. So let's go back to this horrific journey of our retiree. This time we're going to say, well, look, we don't know the future of the markets, but we know that you have a bare minimum spend of, let's say, $20,000 a year for essentials. That's our floor, our minimum. Pretty crap for £1 million starting, but nevertheless. So we're going to apply the rules of, if we start with a 4% withdrawal rate, that's 40,000 of a million. Now, if the withdrawal rate of the starting portfolio in any year exceeds 6%, we cut our spending by 10%. If the withdrawal rate is at 3.5 or less, it can go up 10%. However, whether it goes up or down, that's going to then create the new baseline figure until that happens again. So for example, let's say we cut 40,000 by 10%, it would drop 4,000, so 36,000. But this will now act as our new base. So now let's say we have a few good years and the withdrawals is 3.5 or less, it goes up 10%. So 36,000 plus 3,600 is 3,900 and 600. And can you see what happens here? We've got a framework, but every so often we're adjusting it down and up, and we're keeping everything inflation adjusted as we go so it keeps its real terms value. So it's just like those bumper lanes when you get in bowling. Side note, I went for bowling with work and I was absolutely terrible. Anyway, the withdrawals are called adaptive spending rules. So just because I've got a feeling this is all going to take ages, do me a quick favour. If you are enjoying this, please add a comment saying that you like this video, and please like and subscribe and all that nonsense. It makes a big, big difference to the content I make. So back to this withdrawal structure. Let's see how this plays out now, and let's reinforce the most comically bad period of investment returns we've ever seen. So 55, 56, bang, spending cut to 36,000. And then it actually stays at 36,000 for quite a while during the bear market. And then again it goes down to 32,400. And we're able to keep within those boundaries all the way now to 64. So maybe you're actually thinking, well, that's not too bad considering. Anyway, because I've been savage and done a horrific bear market on the second bit, it then goes down again at 64 to 29,160, 65 it goes down to 26,000, and then finally 66 it hits the floor at 23,619. and then it kind of just bumps around a bit now, and then at the joyful age of 85, we have another meeting, and you sit down with me, your financial planner, and then you say to me, look, what, George, we can actually increase our spending up now, and because you've been so disciplined and you've stuck the good returns at the end because I've been really cruel, that means from the joyous age of 85, I mean, look, they're going to have a great time.
84
okay, look, that's really underwhelming. But remember, we went from this to this, just using a good structure with the spending. But something's not right, is it? I mean, we saved them from tanking their portfolio during a comically bad market crash, and that's all good, that's good. But because of these rules, at 73, they had £500,000, and they didn't actually get a spending increase until 85. I mean, that just doesn't feel right, does it? And you're right, there is something missing here. The risk of a portfolio running out changes significantly as someone gets older. Basically, a 4% withdrawal at age 60 has a much bigger impact than 4% at 80. Because for a 60-year-old, the average remaining years that individual has on the planet to draw on the portfolio is 26. The other is 6. So if you actually overlay longevity, how long you're going to live, with the expected sustainability levels on the portfolio, the older you are, the more you can spend. So let me just put this up here as a bit of a guide. So if I amend the adaptive spending rules to take account now of age, allowing for withdrawal rules to be higher at certain ages. So what if I do that again, but I put on an overlay to this retirement age? What actually it means now at 71, because the fund is of a certain size relative to their age, the portfolio can then go up, and up again at 73, and then at 75, because a new age range has been reached and the withdrawal rules can adapt with that. So if I adjust this relative to the longevity, how long someone's going to live, it's still the most savage double bear market, but it still works. So look, I've exaggerated this to show you how potentially adaptive spending can work. So where this works best is not during the comically bad times I illustrated, but when it's overlaid with someone's age and then used to bookmark against essential lifestyle and discretionary expenditure. And then basically building rules which allow relative spending flexibility. So spending can go up or down, depending on the portfolio, also in tandem with other benefits in later life. However, building it all together in a big picture, which takes into consideration additional benefits, taxation, legacy. I thought it was pretty well explained. All right, now all you need to do is just leave shot without looking like an absolute weirdo. That's for another time. Thanks for watching. For God's sake.